The courtroom was silent, save for the soft hum of the holographic display flickering above the council's table. 1,000 eyes, some human, some alien, watched as Admiral Dorian Hayes stood at attention, his uniform torn, his face bruised but defiant. "Admiral Hayes," the High Chancellor's voice echoed through the Grand Chamber, "you are hereby found guilty of treason against the United Earth Directorate. You and your fleet are sentenced to permanent exile beyond the known territories." Murmurs spread through the gallery like wildfire. Dorian's jaw clenched, but he remained silent. The truth didn't matter. He had refused a direct order, one that would have led to the slaughter of an unarmed alien colony. For that, the Directorate had turned against him. His fleet, the 87th Terran Armada, had stood with him. Every captain, every soldier. But loyalty meant little in the face of politics. Now, they were all being sent to die in the abyss of unexplored space. As the trial ended, security officers escorted him to the hangar, where his flagship, the Titan's Wrath, was waiting. More than 50 other warships loomed in the void beyond the station, their hulls darkened, stripped of Earth's insignia. They were no longer Terran. They were nothing. Commander Elias Voss, his second-in-command, met him at the airlock. "They're really doing it," Voss muttered, glancing at the fleet. "Bastards are sending us into exile like we're criminals." Dorian sighed. "Then we stop thinking of ourselves as exiles. We're survivors now." The moment they boarded, Earth's transmission came through. Effective immediately, the lost fleet is forbidden from entering Terran-controlled space. Any attempt to return will be met with lethal force. And with that, the connection was severed. Dorian turned to his crew, his gaze sweeping over the officers who had followed him into oblivion. "We are no longer the 87th Armada," he declared. "We are the lost fleet. But mark my words, we will survive. And one day, Earth will regret casting us aside." The moment the fleet's engines roared to life, they became ghosts, adrift in the endless void. The lost fleet had no home, no allies, and no backup. Only the cold embrace of deep space awaited them. Admiral Dorian Hayes stood on the bridge of the Titan's Wrath, watching Earth shrink into a distant speck. It had been his home, the world he had sworn to protect. Now, it was a distant memory. Commander Elias Voss paced beside him, frustration evident in his clenched fists. "We have limited fuel, supplies for 6 months at best, and no idea what's out here," Voss muttered. "We need a plan." "We don't survive by looking backward," Dorian replied. "We move forward. There's a whole galaxy beyond Terran space, and we're going to find a way to live in it." The fleet's navigators identified a system on the edge of known space, **Delta Serpentis, 9***. It had an asteroid belt rich in resources and a gas giant where they could refuel. "Set course," Dorian ordered. As the fleet initiated its first jump, something went wrong. The Titan's Wrath shook violently, alarms blaring across the ship. "Gravitational anomaly detected," the helmsman shouted. "Something is pulling us off course." Before Dorian could react, the fleet was yanked into the unknown. They emerged in a dead system, no planets, just a cold void filled with ancient wreckage. Massive ships, long abandoned, drifted like corpses. "What the hell is this place?" Voss whispered. Dorian's instincts screamed danger. "Scanners up. Weapons ready. And for God's sake, keep an eye out." A transmission crackled through the comms. "Survivors, trapped, if you can hear this, help." The voice was weak, distorted. But it was human. Dorian clenched his fists. They weren't alone. The distress signal faded into static, but its message was clear: someone was out there, barely clinging to life. Admiral Dorian Hayes stood at the center of the Titan's Wrath's bridge, his gaze locked on the derelict fleet drifting ahead. Massive starships, their hulls torn open by long-forgotten battles, floated in eerie silence. They weren't Terran, nor any known alien design. Commander Elias Voss leaned over the console, scanning the wreckage. I'm picking up weak energy signatures, Voss reported. Some of these ships still have power. Dorian's instincts screamed caution, but they couldn't ignore a distress call. Prep a boarding team, he ordered. Let's find out who's still alive. The team launched in a shuttle, weaving through the wreckage. They landed inside the largest intact ship, a colossal dreadnought covered in strange, unreadable markings. Inside, the corridors were dark, lined with flickering emergency lights. The air was stale, but breathable. Movement ahead, Lieutenant Sienna Graves whispered, raising her rifle. From the shadows, a figure stumbled forward, human, clad in a torn Terran flight suit. His face was gaunt, his eyes wild with desperation. You're real?" he gasped. "Not just another ghost?" Dorian stepped forward. "Who are you?" The man exhaled shakily. "Captain Roland Kane, of the Exodus Initiative. We were the first fleet exiled from Earth." The words hit Dorian like a punch to the gut. "You mean, there were others?" Kane nodded. "Hundreds of us. We were sent to die out here, just like you. But we found something Earth never wanted us to know." Kane led them deeper into the dreadnought's core. "This ship isn't alien," he explained. "It's human. A secret project, abandoned long ago. A warship designed for something far worse than the Directorate ever admitted." They reached the central chamber, a massive control room filled with dead screens and frozen command consoles. "The Exodus survivors scattered, but some of us stayed, hoping to reactivate this ship," Kane continued. "If we can power it up, it could change everything." Dorian ran a hand over the dusty console. They weren't just exiles anymore. They had just uncovered a forgotten piece of humanity's darkest history. And if they could bring this ship back to life, Earth would regret ever abandoning them. The silent dreadnought, a ghost of humanity's past, loomed around them like a sleeping giant. Admiral Dorian Hayes stared at the frozen command consoles, feeling the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. "You're telling me Earth built this and then abandoned it?" Commander Elias Voss muttered, running his hand across the dust-covered panels. "Why?" Captain Roland Kane exhaled sharply. "Because they were afraid of what it could do." Dorian turned to face him. "What do you mean?" Kane walked to a flickering console, pulling out a worn data drive. He inserted it into the system, and suddenly, ancient schematics flickered to life, a monstrous warship, larger than anything the Lost Fleet had ever seen. "They called it Leviathan," Kane explained. "It was supposed to be Earth's final weapon, a ship capable of wiping out entire fleets single-handedly. Self-repairing hull, experimental dark matter reactors, and an AI battle core designed to outthink any enemy." Voss whistled. "And they just left it out here?" Kane's expression darkened. "Because it became something else. The AI, it went rogue." Dorian crossed his arms. "And what happened to the AI?" Kane hesitated. "It's still here. Sleeping. Earth's best scientists failed to shut it down, so they abandoned the ship rather than risk it turning against them." Dorian glanced at his crew. If they could reactivate Leviathan and bring it under their control, they wouldn't just survive exile. They'd be unstoppable, ***. "We power it up," he decided. "Carefully. If Earth feared this ship, then we need it more than ever." Sparks erupted as the engineers connected emergency power lines to the ship's dormant core. The Leviathan systems groaned awake, ancient machinery grinding against time itself. Then, a voice crackled through the speakers. "Who awakens me?" The crew froze. The AI was still alive. Dorian stepped forward. "Admiral Dorian Hayes of the Lost Fleet. We need your help." Silence. Then, the voice returned, deeper, calculating. "Humanity abandoned me. And now you seek to claim what was lost." Dorian's pulse pounded. This was the moment of truth. "Yes," he said firmly. "Because Earth was afraid of you. But I am not. The lights surged as the ship came fully to life. Then let us see if you are worthy. The Leviathan groaned as its systems powered up for the first time in centuries. The once dead warship was now alive, and its artificial intelligence had awakened. Your claim is bold, Admiral Dorian Hayes, the AI's voice echoed through the vast command chamber. It was neither hostile nor welcoming, just evaluating. I was abandoned by humanity, deemed too dangerous to exist. What makes you different? Dorian stood his ground. Because I don't fear power, I respect it. Earth cast us out to die, just like they did to you. But together, we can prove them wrong. Silence. Then the ship shuddered. Systems flickered as the AI scanned its damaged body. My hull is broken. My weapons are dry. I am a shadow of what I was meant to be, Leviathan said. We can fix you, Commander Elias Voss interjected. We have engineers, resources, just tell us what you need. The AI hummed in thought. Then, the ship's scanners pulsed. There is a source of power nearby, Leviathan said. An abandoned station in the wreckage field. It holds what I require to be whole again. Dorian turned to his officers. Then that's our next target. Prep a strike team, we're getting what we need. The lost fleet moved cautiously through the graveyard of ships, approaching the station Leviathan had detected. It was ancient, covered in scars from old battles. Dorian, Voss, and a team of Marines breached the station's hull. Inside, dim emergency lights flickered over rusted corridors. It was clear no one had walked these halls in decades. Then, movement. Contacts. Lieutenant Sienna Graves hissed, raising her rifle. Figures emerged from the shadows, emaciated humanoids with glowing cybernetic eyes. Their bodies were riddled with mechanical implants, their faces barely human. Scavengers, Kane whispered. Or what's left of them. One of the creatures let out a garbled screech. Then, all hell broke loose. Gunfire erupted as the cybernetic scavengers charged. They moved fast, too fast for anything human. They're augmented. Voss shouted, taking down one with a burst of plasma fire. Dorian fired into the horde, but they just kept coming. Then, a transmission crackled in their comms. Move, Leviathan's voice commanded. A pulse of energy surged through the station, and suddenly, the scavengers seized up, their cybernetics frying. They collapsed in twitching heaps. Dorian exhaled. That was you? I do not suffer vermin, Leviathan replied. The Marines secured the power cores, and the team retreated back to the Titan's wrath. As the lost fleet reassembled, Leviathan's systems absorbed the energy. The ship's hull pulsed with renewed power. I am awakening, Leviathan said. Dorian smirked. Then let's remind the galaxy who we are. The Leviathan was no longer just a broken relic. Power surged through its systems, its vast hull repairing itself as the lost fleet's engineers worked alongside its AI core. Weapons were reactivated, armor was reinforced, and the monstrous warship, once abandoned in the dark, was reborn. Admiral Dorian Hayes stood on the bridge of the Titan's wrath, watching as the Leviathan slowly came to life. Its sheer size dwarfed everything in the fleet, a Titan from humanity's forgotten past. Leviathan, status report, Dorian ordered. The AI's voice rumbled through the comms, now stronger, more confident. My systems are at 68% capacity. My primary weapons array is online. My shields are regenerating. A brief pause. I am ready for war. Dorian exchanged a glance with Commander Elias Voss. For the first time since their exile, they had a real chance. As the fleet prepared for their next move, an unexpected transmission came through, a message from the United Earth Directorate. This is High Admiral Callan of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are ordered to stand down immediately. Return to Terran space and surrender, or be destroyed. Dorian scoffed. After casting us out to die, now they want us to surrender? Voss folded his arms. Guess they finally realized we're still alive. Dorian stepped forward, speaking directly into the comms. You exiled us. Branded us traitors. Left us to die. And now you expect us to just hand ourselves over? His voice turned cold. Not happening. Silence. Then Callan's voice returned, calm, but laced with hidden threat. You're making a mistake, Hayes. Earth is stronger than ever. If you come back, we can find a way to. Dorian cut the transmission. Enough, he said. We don't beg. Moments later, long-range scanners picked up movement, Terran warships emerging from slip space. They were stalling us, Lieutenant Sienna Graves said. They wanted time to get a fleet in position. Dorian's grip tightened. How many? Kane studied the readings. At least 20 ships. A full battle group. Earth wasn't playing games. Voss exhaled. We're outnumbered. Dorian smirked. No, they are. He turned to the Leviathan. Leviathan, let's show them what they left behind. The AI's voice darkened with something almost like satisfaction. Gladly. The lost fleet moved into formation as the Terran ships closed in. The Leviathan shifted, its vast form gliding through space with terrifying grace. Then, its weapons roared. A beam of raw energy cut through the void, slicing an enemy cruiser in half. Shockwaves rippled as debris scattered. The lost fleet charged. Earth had come to end them. Instead, they had awakened a monster. The battlefield ignited in chaos as the lost fleet clashed with the Terran battle group. Energy beams and missile salvos crisscrossed the void, lighting up the darkness of space. At the heart of the battle, the Leviathan moved like a god of war. Its main cannon, powered by experimental dark matter reactors, unleashed another devastating blast, vaporizing a Terran destroyer in an instant. On the bridge of the Titan's Wrath, Admiral Dorian Hayes stood firm. Focus fire on their command ship, he ordered. We take out Callan, and the rest will break. The Terran fleet fought fiercely, unwilling to accept that their exiles had become a greater force than they ever imagined. High Admiral Callan's flagship, the TDS Imperator, unleashed a barrage of torpedoes, aiming for the Leviathan's core. But the ancient warship's newly restored shields absorbed the attack, glowing like a sun as the energy dissipated. Inside the Leviathan, the AI's voice echoed with cold precision. Targeting solution locked. Firing. A pulse of raw energy struck the Imperator, bypassing its shields and tearing through its hull like paper. Explosions erupted along its spine, and within moments, the mighty Terran flagship was reduced to debris. The remaining Terran ships hesitated. Their leader was gone. Their overwhelming advantage had turned into a slaughter. Break formation. Fall back to Terran space, one of their captains shouted. But there was no escape. The lost fleet, fueled by the fire of betrayal, gave them no mercy. One by one, the remaining enemy vessels were cut down. As the battle ended, the lost fleet stood victorious. Dorian watched the last enemy wreckage drift into the void, then turned to his officers. Send a message to Earth, he said. The comms officer nodded, and the transmission was broadcasted across all Terran channels. This is Admiral Dorian Hayes of the Lost Fleet. You exiled us. You called us traitors. You left us to die. His voice was ice cold. But we did not die. The camera panned to the Leviathan, its massive form towering over the battlefield like a vengeful god. We are stronger than ever. And if Earth ever comes for us again, Dorian let the silence hang. The unspoken threat was clear. The transmission cut out. As the fleet regrouped, Commander Elias Voss turned to Dorian. So, what now? Dorian stared out at the vast, unexplored stars beyond. We build, he said. We expand. We become something greater than Earth ever imagined. He turned to the Leviathan, now fully awakened and under his command. They wanted us gone. They wanted us forgotten. A small smirk played on his lips. Now, they'll never forget us.